Hi Jamie, Daphne here. Thank you for sending in your next essays for correction, and I'm really glad that you're finding the corrections helpful. So here you've got your task 1 bar chart and then your task 2 essay on pollution. Okay, let's have a look at this. So firstly, when we look at a chart like this, we're going to obviously look at the highlights. So this stands out, the kind of main things. We're going to look at where we can group information. So you could be grouping the ones that have similar numbers of sales, for example, in different cars. So you could group some with the Audis, you could group some with the Fords possibly there. You're also going to look quickly at the time scale, so it's in the past, so you make sure you're using the past tense here, and the units. So this is a quick kind of work we're going to do before we even start writing. So the graph compares revenue from 3 sales of 3 brands, namely Ford, okay. Specifically don't know about revenue because there's nothing indicating the price they sold the cars at. Be careful, that's your supposition, that's not what this. So I would say compares vehicle sales. Keep it very simple. Don't speculate. It's notable that car sales were the highest in Hungary among all countries with a figure of nearly 400,000. You don't need that. Belgium, in contrast, showed the lowest selling of cars, which only less than, okay, so rather than which, the lowest selling of cars, okay, lowest, it would really have to be lowest sales of, actually, or you could have purchases, lowest car purchases, because obviously that's the opposite. Lowest car purchases, and then you'd have to have where, not which, because where you're talking about Belgium as a place where only less than 100,000 cars, plural there, you want the S, were sold, constituting only a third of the sales of Hungary. This is lovely. This is just the right kind of language, so I'm going to underline that. Super good. That's what you want, and you've got your comparative and you've got your superlative. Looking into detail, all 3 brands showed a variation, so variations or a variation in the number of cars being sold. Regarding the sales of Ford, the figure was around 100,000. So make sure you've got that right every time, yeah? 100,000 cars in 6 out of 9 countries except, and then here, same pronoun, where, less than. Okay? So you'd have to have where less than 550,000 were sold, or with, so the alternative, if you want to use with, you just go straight. So after Italy, with less than 50 units, which is also quite a nice way of doing it. So I'd use both those structures, because here you've got where, and then you could use the with here. Audi, on the other hand, sold less than, or in 5 countries, Audi were less purchased or were purchased less often. Finally, BMW had don't use finally, sorry. Avoid using finally and on the other hand, because those are really what we use in task 2, not task 1. So, so you can say Audi sold less than 100,000 in 5 countries, while, use this lovely connecting word here, while BMW had a more even distribution in all countries except for, not instead of, except for Belgium. Yep. So I would say and, except for Belgium, so you need to connect this. Showed a figure of around here. Okay, good. 20 minutes, no time for proofreading. Okay, get this down to 18 minutes in time for proofreading, because you will lose points. You lose points there, Jamie, on, you've got to get the numbers right. Yeah? It's got to be accurate. I know you've made the mistake every time, but you make sure you've got that right. And then little prepositions like pronouns, like this with and where is also important. But good work. There's lots of great stuff going on there. Well done. Problems with pollution, and well done, you've got these collocations in there. Some of these, to be honest, I don't think are appropriate. Some of them are a bit, well, they may be good, but some of them are amazing. So draconian is lovely, foster development, safeguard interest. There's some good vocab in there, and you can use that if you want to. In this day and age, the detrimental effect of various types of pollution is getting more serious, especially in certain metropolitan areas with an S. Dense population and the hustle and bustle of life in the city are believed to be the main reasons for this phenomenon. In this essay, okay, I really like that first line, okay. In this day and age, I quite like it. I really like this bit. It might just be better to go all or in most countries across the world. Is a little bit more formal. In this day and age, it's a little bit informal. So for me, I think we said this last time, we need to keep the tone super formal here. Detrimental effects is getting more serious. Instead of getting, we could have becoming. So make sure when you do your corrections, you write down these more kind of grown-up words, if you like, these more academic words, and use them. Dense population. And I think you have to make it a comparative because you're comparing it to what it was before. So denser populations. And now this is too informal. We say normally it's actually hustle and bustle. Okay, it's a nice phrase, but not for here. And the fast-paced way of life in the city are believed to be the main reasons for this phenomenon. Phenomenon, bit dramatic, I would say, for this development, for this dangerous development. Okay. In this essay, the reasons and solutions will be discussed. Okay, very nice. So, this dangerous development. One of the most obvious reasons for come on, tell me what, is the crowded population in the city, in most cities, in that you've got overcrowded. Let's get some adjectives in here. Overcrowded or intensely populated areas or intensely populated nature characteristic in the cities. With a high number of people living there or living here, you don't need to repeat that, more natural resources are consumed and therefore, and as a consequence, more waste is produced in those areas. Okay. With the rapid accumulation of waste being generated, the natural environment cannot afford to degrade the waste and thus it will adversely affect the environment. Okay, let's just tidy up that sentence. More waste is produced in those areas. I'm not sure about starting the sentence with. I can see what you're trying to do, but maybe you could say instead, given this, given is quite nice, given this rapid accumulation of waste, of generated waste, or man-made generated waste, the natural environment the natural environment is degraded. Yeah, degraded, and this adversely affects the environment. Okay, so I'm just going to change that sentence around a bit as an alternative. Okay, for example, water pollution is a problem in the city, as not loads of, too informal, significant quantities of household wastewater are released, passive verb, released, and cannot be decomposed naturally by the bacteria in the ecosystem. In addition, many businessmen, okay, living in the city tend to have, so you're just getting it in plural here, busy lifestyle, which forcing them to prefer. Watch out for the like, give me vocabulary. Yeah, take away food instead of cooking at home. Non-reusable plastic boxes, plural, and bottles will in turn be consumed. So passive again, be consumed in the city, adding to the waste disposal problem. And you don't need that line. You don't need that line, but you do need this line. So, okay, they're getting takeaway, so what? It's making the problem worse. So you do need that, okay? So let's go back. You asked me, I think, in your question on how to get a band. What are you scoring? Yes, well, you're aiming for a band 7. Okay, so for me, okay, you're not on your band 7 yet. You're getting close to it, but you need to really watch this vocabulary. I really want some fantastic vocabulary in here. Okay, I don't want to be saying too informal, too informal. You need to get the passive. So this is 2 grammar points here. You need to get this grammar good and really showing me the grammar. You need to work hard to show the grammar in here. And so just making sure you fully develop each sentence to its maximum. In order to lessen the situation or improve, we would lessen the gravity. You could lessen the gravity of the situation, or in order to improve the situation. And then don't give me what you think yet, because it's not really about you. I mean, you could put you at the end, but really this is just about governments. So education and government policy are 2 main categories that could be addressed. That here you're making recommendations, so should urgently be addressed. Here you're using, with these problem solution essays, you're going to be using much more of the should, could, must be, ought to be, those modal verbs. So go back and revise those if you're not totally happy on those. Firstly, education about minimizing the uses of resources should be reinforced. Give me a bit more. In schools, yeah, starting at a young age. Raising awareness of current environmental issues and providing ways to conserve our nature would allow people, so you're making a suggestion, allow people to understand the problems and build, infinitive there, up the habit of reducing resources, protecting resources. Protecting and lessening use of resources. So we use the resources. We don't reduce them, we reduce use of them. Hence creating less waste. Good. Make sure it's linking back to the points you made. So you made the point about waste, so go back to it. It's good. For example, strategies like the 3R approach should be encouraged in order to, in order to educate, in order to make sure this is automatic reflex. So you could have automatic reflex of the population to sort out their waste and so produce less. Over and above that, government here. So stronger modal verbs would be advised to, here's a nice passive in there, would be advised to introduce taxes and fines to discourage the consumption. For instance, tax plastic bag usage has successfully been introduced, actually. Been introduced to many European countries in order to reduce the use of plastic bags. Good. Okay, that could be your little example there. So passive, also I'd like to see a conditional. If they did this, this would be better. So the grammar is really important. Add grammar. Okay, conditional. Passive. And make sure I can see the grammar. Okay, it is really important. The relative clauses, which would do this, which would do that, who does this, where this happens. That's the sort of development, adding information. All in all, in conclusion, okay, I believe pollution is getting more serious. Okay, You can have that. You don't have to, as I say. Okay. There is no doubt that waste, so go back to what you said, waste pollution is getting more serious and more serious. Although you could have a nice, although, or, and in the future, or in the immediate future, it's essential for both individual and government to work together to and alleviate this situation. Very good. You could, but let's get some more adjectives in here. Serious, concerning, worsening. So a lot of this is about vocab as well. So how about, because I can see you've got no time, how about aiming for maybe 300 words? I mean, you can make it longer later, aiming for 300 words, but getting some better quality words in there and getting some grammar in as your next target. Okay, well done, Jamie. Good work. I love how you're really trying hard.